All right, welcome back for another week of the Diamond Roundup here on YSN. Sam Torres here with DJ Yoakley, fresh off of a Myrtle Beach trip, covering tons of softball and stuff going on down there. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. And obviously down here with Anthony Hartwig. Steve Leslie not going to be able to be with us this week, but he's coming back soon, so don't fret too much. But before we get into the show, let's talk to DJ about how that Myrtle Beach treated you this week.
Oh man, it was awesome. Anytime you can get down south and have that beautiful weather, and then you look at the Storm Tracker 21 app and look at the weather you guys are having, and you actually made out better than we did. So it was a win-win wherever you were in the YSN coverage area. Just a blessing to be able to go down there and follow those teams, and not just follow them, but broadcast the games and talk to the players after the game, the coaches, the community members, the parents. It was just unbelievable. We're so fortunate to do what we do and to be able to show our commitment to them as well and follow them, 650 miles down south shows what kind of commitment we have on this team and, what kind of family this is when you join the YSN family. So I think it was a big win and, spent Easter down there. First time I've ever been down and I was with my family, so it was nice. But we had a nice Easter dinner that Sarah cooked up for Chris Colucci and my family, and got to spend the majority of the time with Ty. I know had a nice couple dinners with Austin Town Fitch softball, and we had the majority of our time spent with the South Range softball family. And I mean, it was awesome. It was the food, like it doesn't get better than that. All you can eat crap, man. How can you turn down all you can eat crap, except for the next day when you wake up and all your joints ache because you ate so much?
But yeah, boy, that's something I still miss to this day.
Yeah, it was a good time down there. It really was, and we're looking to add on to it next year. Hopefully, I think this was the most teams we had down there at one time ever, with 8 teams, and I'd love to see more teams go down and take more announcers and more of the YSN family with us. Maybe rent a house next time, and do the whole bash at the beach takeover for YSN.
Yeah, especially during baseball and softball season, really, when you think about like what we're up against up here. The season starts probably earlier in the spring than people are really comfortable with here, just because it's still cold, it's still rainy. You're already up against it for all the rainouts you're going to have. I think it's a really cool idea that these teams are now like, if we can't play baseball here, we'll go to where we can. Or if we can't play softball here, we're going to go to where we can. Like, because I don't know if that's something that has regularly happened, but I don't remember hearing about it until like the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I talked to Jeff DeRose, who's the head coach of the softball team for South Range, and he said there's years that we go down and it's the first game we have. It's not always a situation where it's spring break. Sometimes it's your season opener down there. We've been fortunate the past couple of years to have some decent weather in the spring to get things started. But obviously on Friday, they still get weather down there in Myrtle Beach as well. So, all the games but one, the softball base or the South Range baseball team was able to play and nobody else was. They shut it down, and they shut it down quick down there. It's not like up here where you kind of gotta, all right, we've already had 6 rainouts. How are we going to make this happen so everybody gets to play? It was like they shut down. And I'll let you in on a little secret. So they were looking for teams to play on Thursday night that were going to be around and able to play, possibly on Friday morning. And South Range's opponent dropped. Ursuline's opponent dropped. There was another opponent for South Range, I believe, that dropped. And then all of a sudden, like, we're starting to look around the table, and South Range and Ursuline could have played each other, and they were going to play each other on Friday at 8 a.m. in Myrtle Beach, which would have been the bash at the beach we were looking for. Like, I was up at 5 a.m. I've got, and I'll post this sometime this week, probably tomorrow on the Power Hour, but I was up at 5 a.m. and I'm taking video of lightning over the ocean. And I'm thinking to myself, if this game goes down and if some miracle happens, and it's turf there, but there's also dirt mixed in, we would have been the only ones there. It would have been awesome. in my mind, I'm like, man, is this a pay-per-view or what? Like this. Correct me if I'm wrong, Anthony. Last time they met was a couple years ago in the regional, correct?
Regional final. They were set up to play each other last year. It didn't work out, but they were both in the same region. This year, it won't happen because Ursuline moved up to Division 2. Mm-hmm. So that would have been the only matchup of the season this year if they were able to do it in Myrtle.
And it to quote Kelly Zolik, you got to bring out the dog in you to play that game, because those two teams, while they respect the hell out of each other, they don't like each other very much at all. At all. It doesn't matter what color uniform you wear. Those two teams do not like each other. Respect, yes. Like, no.
I think that's probably one of my favorite things across the board. When you're talking about YSN and you're talking about our coverage area, and it's a huge coverage area, all the way from the river, all the way to the lake. And all these teams are, while they seem far apart, they're really not that far apart. That's my favorite thing as every one of these seasons starts to progress, whether it's baseball or softball or football or volleyball, is you start to see these two teams and you're like, hey, that's not that far of a bus ride. Like, I would love to see these matchups. And baseball gives the unique advantage that the schedule is and softball too. The schedule is fluid.
Yeah.
And with all the rainouts, like, it's not like football where, like, if it ain't part of the 10, it ain't happening. You know what I mean?
With baseball and softball, it's interesting. Anthony, I'll kind of lean on you for this one. Where football, you've got 10 games, right? And you've got to make the most of it. Maybe a little bit more 10 years ago than you do now, with how many teams they let in the playoffs. But baseball and softball, you're in the playoffs. It doesn't matter what you do, you're in. So you're more likely to play somebody that you may lose to just to get the experience, just to maybe get a win. You can play that the David versus Goliath matchups during the regular season and maybe showcase some of the talent and maybe get some confidence even in a loss. Whereas in football, you lose one of those games to a team that might beat you, and you might be on the outside looking in at the end of the season in week 10. So that's why I love baseball and softball. I really wish that we'd had more turf fields around here. Fitch has a great opportunity to play some of the games that nobody else has because of their turf facilities. Some of the best facilities here, Louisville as well. You're looking at Edison, you're Hoban now turf, right?
Hoban, yep.
Yeah. Brand so you're looking at that and you're starting to wonder, okay, is this the future? Right? Will teams have to purchase turf in order to get these games in? But with non-revenue sports, it's a little bit tougher to do that. You're relying a lot on your football team, your boosters, and the levy, the almighty levy is what it comes down to but baseball, and I hate saying this, softball, not so much. Baseball is a sport that's going to be dealing with some problems. We talked about this on the Power Hour a couple weeks ago. With volleyball coming in, that is going to hurt the numbers, I think, for baseball teams moving forward.
You're right. And talk about softball in the future, the state championship's going to be turf now. They're turfing Firestone Stadium. So you're going to have teams that want to, if they can, want to play more on turf, maybe make a turf field so they can be the team that says, hey, we've played on turf before, but when they get to the state championship.
Well, I think coaches in college as well, recruiters are looking at it because most colleges are now turfed as well. And if they're not turf, they are beautifully manicured grass and diamonds. So, you want to see true hops. You want to see that stuff. Nobody wants to play on, these fields with rocks and broken glass and stuff like that we had to do when we were youngsters. You don't want to rely on that lucky hop. You want true bounces, true hops, and, see what a kid is really talented enough to do. And these student athletes, especially in our area, guys, I've went over it a time or two, believe it or not. They're really talented. When we're going down and kicking ass and taking names, all of our teams down south, tell me if that doesn't say something when we're beating Southern teams and we're from Northeast Ohio and we get about 3 weeks of practice time all indoors.
I mean, some of these scores that were coming in, I had to remind myself, like, we were playing good teams and we're still winning like 15-0.
Well, that's I guess that's the best part, Ian, is you look at these teams that we're playing and people are like, oh, they must be just crappy teams. Like most teams in the South, and I verified this year, most teams in the South start their varsity in the 7th grade. Mm-hmm. Like you can earn, what is that, 6 varsity letters? 7th, 8th. Yeah.
Yeah,
freshman,
that's it.
sophomore, junior, senior. So you can earn 6 varsity letters. But it's because the travel circuit is so ridiculous in the South. So these kids are coming, and by the time they get to that age, they've got 2 years of varsity experience as a freshman, and they're good, but we're better. And that's not me pounding our chest a little bit, but
Yeah.
but really is it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense to me. And these are really good teams down there, especially the softball. They are so finely tuned down there, but our defense up here is immaculate. It's just so much better. The offense might be a little better down south. The bunting's a little bit better. The slapping's a little bit better. But the defense, for the most part, belongs to the Northeast Ohio. So we did a really good job. And pitching, man. We have ownership of pitching in baseball. It is just lights out. I mean, Billy Skripak went down there and just lit them up. Tyson Terajak for South Range lit them up. And it was like, it wasn't even close. And, I'm only speaking on South Range because that's all I've been able to see. I've seen, obviously Fitch a little bit up here. Poland looked like they had a little bit of struggle bus issues down there, but I'm telling you what, I'll still take our guys and our girls over anybody down south. I really will, because we had South Range take on, I think Ursuline did too, if I'm not mistaken. They took on the best team, one of the best teams in South Carolina, and probably a division or two up from them, and they took them to the 8th inning, did South Range.
Right,
and
yep.
Ursuline only lost 6-1.
Yep.
I think. So, and that was coming off a late night and playing in the morning too. So it's, again, I give our student athletes, our coaches, and our communities a ton of credit for what they were able to do down south.
Yeah, Mark Roth chimes in here. He says, look at the Youngstown, Ohio PA players, teams competing and winning at stages like the Pony and Palomino World Series. Ohio and Pennsylvania baseball is for real. And aside from maybe basketball, I don't know that any sport spends more time in Ohio traveling than baseball and softball. Like, and even with the amount of travel that these teams do, they're still not even touching the amount of games and time on, like, field time that Floridians and Texans and South Carolinians are getting. So there's something to be said. There's like a real pride there when these teams from Northeast Ohio or Pennsylvania in general are going down south and still winning against the most competitive teams in the country. I'm
going to talk about this tomorrow, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Southerners, even though they sound really nice, are kind of mean. I mean,
you get that passive aggressive. Oh, you darling.
There's some passive aggressive BS going on down there because
bless your heart. That's an insult.
We don't like y'all, but come on inside. It's like, wait a minute. What did you say? Like, I'm talking to some lady, and I feel really bad. This really, really, really nice older lady who's sitting next to me during the South Range game at night, the primetime game, and she's like, "Are y'all from Ohio?" And I'm like, "What did you just say to me?" Like, say that again in English this time. Like, and then she was. I mean, they're very confident in their teams down there, and they're very loyal to their teams. But we are very loyal to ours. It is. We made it abundantly clear that we were there to play. We were there, and I think we were down 5-1 at one point for the South Range. Came back, tied it up, took the lead on Matty Dato triple, and then they inserted. Now, everything's a little bit slower in the South. Okay, they do everything a little bit on their time.
Yeah.
So every single pitch, they step out of the box and trot their happy asses down third base, talk to their coach. Like, I'm talking like mouth to mouth to their coach, come back, do their happy, cross all this stuff in the dirt, and then step. Every pitch, Sam, every pitch, they did it. And I was trying not to get upset, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, surprise, they're doing their routine again. Duh, ball one. She trots out down to third base.
I mean, how do you get through a game in under 3 hours?
They didn't. We couldn't. It was a 3-hour game. It was a 3-hour softball game, which is
Insane.
impossible. It's
Yep.
impossible. Like, I never thought most people would rather go to softball games because they're over in an hour and 10 minutes than they would go to a baseball game because it takes 2 hours, right? If you're an announcer, I understand that because you get more bang for your buck. You're not eliminating your entire night. We had a baseball game go a couple years ago that was like 6 hours long. They had to move it to the next night.
Yep.
They had to, I remember it happened at Eastwood Field. And like for softball, they're supposed to be done in like an hour 30 tops. That night game took 3 hours. The day after, that day we beat them by 10, and it took 2.5 hours.
Oh
Like, they are in no hurry down in the South to do anything really fast. But I will tell you this. I'll let you in on a little secret from the South. If they turn the heat on, right? If they want to go fast, you need to get the hell out of Dodge. Because things are not going to go your way. It is going to end really, really bad. And what happened was in that 7th inning, all of a sudden they tied it up. And it was 6-6. They go to the 8th inning, tied, and all of a sudden they incorporate the Texas shootout, which no. You don't bring in the international rule on that first inning. You play the 8th, and then if you go to the 9th, then you bring in the international rule, Texas shootout rule. No, they were like, y'all, we're going to bring in Texas shootout. Umpires were good with it. These umpires were patient in the entire game, and then they're like, oh, shucks, it's the 8th inning. We better speed this one on up. I'm like, no, you can't do that now. You can't do that now. What are you doing? If a Southerner, listen, world pro tip advice. If a Southerner ever turns the heat up on you and speeds you up, get out of there. Like, it is not going to end well for you. It's rigged.
Was the international tiebreaker, was that in a set rule of that tournament, or did they just decide like, hey, we got to get this game over?
It wasn't a tournament. It was you walked onto their turf, they're going to do what the hell they want. It was we didn't play in the North Myrtle Beach Sports Complex. Oh no. Oh no. This was at their house. They had music. We didn't. Like, the atmosphere was electric. The atmosphere was awesome. I'm not going to bang on the atmosphere because it was awesome. The electricity was absolutely zero. So we were like, poor Chris Colucci's like toggling switches just to keep us on the air. Because that was the game or the day we had 4 games, right? And we used our power supply for the boys' baseball games. And we had 25% going into the girls' game at night,
geez.
Which I'm thinking, we're going to make this work. We were not expecting 18 innings. Like, it was, and like the whole time I'm like they're taking so much time between every pitch, between everything. Like, it was unbelievable, and it just went on forever and ever and ever. And as it was a great game, so you wanted that, but at the same time, I'm like, we're gonna die on the air here. This is not gonna be good. South Range is gonna have this massive comeback win, which they were going to. And then our power was going to go off, and poor Chris Colucci's like flipping switches and plugging in. Like, we had, God bless the folks that helped us out. They had like car jumpers and stuff like that. And we were plugging in. It was wild. And then adding in the international tiebreaker rules, it was just like, it was like having that really, really good steak. And then you get to the end of it and you're just like, you see like, I don't know, a bug or something in it. You're just like, oh, it just ruins the entire thing. Like, what are you doing? But I don't know. That part sucked. It was a great game. Probably the greatest. Oh, thank you.
Steve Hogan says, huge shout out to you, DJ, for bringing YSN down to Myrtle. Our families who couldn't make it sincerely appreciated it, that they could watch their girls from Ohio.
Shout out to Steve Hogan. I got to see him down there. It's one of like 3 times I get to see him all year. The big fella. Love him. His wife, Lisa, was one of my teachers when I was in school, which doesn't make her old, just makes her that good at being a great teacher early on in the profession. And, we were joking down there about all kinds of stuff. And Fitch dominated again, man. Like if you, and I'm going to say this, if you haven't seen, we're going to put the Power 20 up here in a little bit. If you haven't seen these teams play, make time for it. Make time. And I'm not just talking YSN. Like YSN is one thing, but go and watch them in person. And if you haven't seen a Fitch game live and in person, go and sit by the dugout, because that is the liveliest bunch of ladies I have ever seen. And like, they are loud. And I wanted to see Fitch versus Ainer. Ainer's the team from South Carolina that I was just referencing, because both of those teams are super loud. Now, Ainer does it like 13-year-old, 13U, 14U does it around here. It's like chants and stuff like that. Fitch just brings it to your front door. They don't care what they're saying. They're just going to, like, Big Bad Wolf is knocking, and you better let him in or he is going to get in. I came back with a little Southern accent because I've been kicking ass, taking names down in the South.
It's all that tea.
It's all that Coke.
It's all that. It's all that tea with.
What do you think I'm doing down there, Anthony? I'm not doing Coke.
No, Coke is everything. Like, you say, I want a soda, and it's Coke. They say, what kind of Coke? Well, I want Sprite. Oh, it's Coke.
Trust me, they'd be a little bit faster if they did Coke in the South.
I'll tell you what. So that's awesome. Everything going on, Myrtle. I know I had a lot of fun getting to watch the stuff from up here, and it really was a unique opportunity. And I think that's one of the greatest things YSN is doing with, following this team. Like every game when you're down south is an away game, but it doesn't feel like an away game when you've got a familiar voice, a familiar crew behind you. And I think that was so cool about that. But, while you guys were down there beachfront up here for the first week of this baseball season, we had absolute chef's kiss weather all week. I mean, like 82 separate performances made the starting 9 spreadsheet this week. Like, it was unbelievable. And let's jump into a couple of these games right now, as we're going to go right from Monday with Columbiana, Columbiana, it's like their standard anymore is 10 or more. Like, they're getting 10 or more every time they take the baseball field, 10-5 over Southern there. And starting off on Monday, this one is actually an upset up here, as Edgewood heavily favored in this one. But Lakeside says, Favors, we don't need no stinking favors. They go over there, battle of the bridge, goes to Lakeside 13-6. And that is a rivalry that is starting to develop, and I love every second of it. Liberty gonna fall to Campbell Memorial 7-9. Girard going to fall to Struthers 6-7. Hubbard getting a win over Niles 7-2. Columbiana beating Southern again in that doubleheader 11-1. Wellsville winning over Lisbon 14-6, and Crestview and Brookfield in a tight one 4-1. Crestview coming out on top there. McDonald and Jackson Milton 4-1. Champion in Garrettsville. Garfield going to go 6-2 there. LeBray, who is starting to make a name for themselves this year as well. 12-2 over Newton Falls. Springfield in a really tight one, 4-3 over Waterloo. PV and Wyndham in an NAC matchup that came down to the last inning, 8-7. PV coming out on top there. Howland 25 and Letonia 0. And St. John flexing the Herald muscles in this one, 23-4 win over Conneaut. As we go over to the softball and Champion and Champion with like one of, Gabby Gradishire, like, come on. She is one of the best pitchers on the network, probably in Northeast Ohio. 11-0 there. Girard going to go 17-0 over Struthers. Brookfield 11, Crestview 0. Louisville in a tight one over Glen Oak. And that's a big game right there. Louisville going 8-7. Campbell Memorial and Liberty 13-11 with Liberty coming on top there. McDonald 3-0. LeBray 12-1. And Poland and Jefferson 6-0. Poland getting some revenge after Jefferson able to get a win on them.
Well, yeah, wait until tomorrow. Then you'll see Jefferson's actually the one that got revenge the next day.
Oh, okay. So I was out of order
to tomorrow, and then we'll see what Jefferson.
Yeah. St. John gonna fall to Conneaut 12-2. So that St. John Conneaut game, 5 home runs. get hit in that game. 5
All by
home runs.
Conneaut, right?
All by Conneaut. Conneaut had it was unreal in that one, and then Indian Creek over top of Edison there, 2-0. And heading over here into Tuesday. Austintown Fitch going 10-9 win over Carolina Academy. That's that's one of those games with you guys down there. Brookfield and Badger. Brookfield going 18-6 over Badger. LeBray 18-0 over Lordstown. Ursuline, Youngstown East. It's all Ursuline in that one, 19-0. East Palestine going to fall to Mineral Ridge, 14-7. Beaver Local going to fall to East Liverpool, 1-11. And Archbishop Hoban, 11-2 over Ellett. Heartland Christian, 7-5 over Jackson Milton. And this one was a game I actually got to broadcast, the Lakeside Pymatuning Valley game. Lakeside goes 23-0. And so this is the first game Lakeside played after they beat Edgewood. So I don't know if they were just feeling themselves or what, but those bats could not miss that day. It was really incredible watching that game.
It's just like one of those days in baseball where everything's a beach ball and hitting is contagious. I know there's great hitters that will always talk about this. Sometimes you're a 3-hitter, sometimes you're a 9-hitter, but if you get things started, sometimes the doctor is in and that hitting is just contagious throughout that lineup.
Yeah, there's never anything more. A pitcher's eyes never get as big as it's the first inning and you've given up probably 5-6 runs, and that when somebody's 2 for 2 and you're not in the second inning, it's going to be a day. It's going to be a long day.
Yeah, and that pucker starts happening in the dugout because the coach is like, well, we got another game tomorrow. How are we going to use these arms,
And it's funny you say that because, talking to Neil Crossan, the head coach over at PV, with the pitch counts in baseball, and then this is a non-conference game. Now, granted, it's a county game, and it's a game you want to win. But, tomorrow we have to line up against a Chalker or a Wyndham or somebody who's going to count for the conference. So do we, sometimes you just got to take the lumps. And it got lumpy in Andover that day. So we're going to head over here. West Branch, who, we've talked about them all year. It's a very good baseball team. 3-2 win over Marlington. United, 22-0 over Latonia. Lakeview, and the Lakeview Bulldogs, 11-10 over Struthers. Folks, I'm telling you, they're my sleeper pick for the NE8 this year. I think they are going to make, there's a lot of people who can upset the apple cart in that conference, and I think nobody's in a better place to do it than Lakeview. 11-4 Martins Ferry over Edison. You got 14-4 Wellsville over Lisbon. 7-5 Heartland Christian over Jackson Milton. Mineral Ridge going to win against East Palestine 14-7. Did we go back to the wrong day? Are these the same? No, that's Wednesday. So Ursuline gets 19-0 again on Youngstown East.
I think you went to Wednesday and you skipped Tuesday, to be honest. But
okay.
Yeah. The way yeah.
All right, and then we're going to head over. So this is Wednesday. Austintown Fitch, 4, Greenbrier 0. This is on the softball field. Canfield going to win 3-0 over Kaiser. 11-8, Ursuline beats Bamberg. And Bamberg did not have a great time with the Ohio teams in particular.
No. They did not. And I'm trying to remember if Bamberg, it was what's their mascot? Do we know?
Weren't they like
was that the Cougars?
I thought it was some kind of cat, like a bear cat or
Bearcat. Yeah, they did not have a good time. No. No.
Yeah, as the scores fly, we're flying in, from these games, and poor Bamberg, it just seems like they were on the wrong side of the BAM every time an Ohio team got on the field.
This is the closest they got.
Bam.
Hey, Bam.
It was a bad day in Bamberg.
Warren JFK softball going to get a win over Cleveland Central Catholic, 13-1. And South Range 14. And I am going to do my very best to make sure that I'm saying this right, because I don't know. Chiraw or Chiraw?
Chiraw.
Okay.
Sherrod. Now I messed it up on the Facebook or whatever the social media thing because there was an extra R in there. I just didn't know where to put it. Like I knew there was an R somewhere in there. Like I talked to Spanky DeRose before the game. I was like, "What's the name of this team?" He said, "Sherrod." Sherrod. That's my best Spanky DeRose impression. Sherrod. And I'm like, "Oh boy." And I think it was the Sherrod Cougars. I think that was it. So yeah, it was rough.
Yeah, needless to say, it's all Raiders in that one. 14-4. The Raiders get it done.
But again, being the guy that was there, they didn't get it done until late. It was like the 6th inning or something like that they finally exploded onto the scene. And I think they had the 10 run, and then they gave it up like a run, so we had to finish like the 6th or the 7th or whatever it was. I'm like, come on, Spanky, 1 run, lock it down. It was like a 45-minute inning, and I'm like, oh my gosh, let's go.
All right, moving on over. We're Edgewood going to win over Lakeside in softball, 15-1. PV going to fall to Howland 9-1. You got Western Reserve 13, Salem 8. United and Minerva, it's United on top 8-6. Beaver Local going 12-0 over East Liverpool. Ursuline going to fall to Aner 6-1. And this was the game you were talking about with Fitch.
Yep.
So yeah, Aner is one of the best teams in the entire state of South Carolina. And their facilities are beautiful. Home of the 1951 state champions. I mean, Chris Colucci loved pointing that out. It's up on their school, and great atmosphere, great softball to be played. And they don't have, I believe, I heard that they don't have a single senior in their lineup.
Wow.
And they are, I'm talking $2 steak tough. Like they are tough to give up a lead like that to South Range, and South Range had that stranglehold. The pitching that South Range has, and to win that game means something. And it means something. It should mean something for South Range to be in a game like that against South Carolina's best. So, Aner, I would have loved to see them. Ursuline, I just think, had a bad day. That game should have been a lot closer than it was. And then I would have loved to see Canfield and Austintown Fitch also take their hacks against this Aner team, because I think that playing that team is going to make those two teams, South Range and Ursuline, a lot better this year.
Yeah, there's no experience like experience, and that's what they're getting out there. I mean, you're getting if you see the best, you're getting the best. You know, I know me. I don't care how bad we're going to get our butt kicked. If I'm an athletic director, give me Fitch and Sydney Watts, because that's the best pitcher we're going to see all year. I'm trying to get them as many times as we can go.
Well, and I had to give it to Colucci because he called it out perfectly. It was a state championship-like atmosphere, and we've been to a couple of those, right? That's where everybody wants to go. You talk about these teams in the Power 20 that we're going to release. That's the ultimate goal. Like, if you're not in the Power 20, who cares? You want to be there when it's all said and done in Firestone Stadium. So when you're looking at, like, you need as much experience under those lights, under those conditions as humanly possible, so that way the heart beats a little bit slower in late May or June or whatever it is this year. So, kudos to teams from up here that wanted to play Aner. And if you ever have a chance to line it up moving forward, line it up, because that's the team you want to play.
Yeah, it's like you said, especially in baseball and softball in particular. There's really no harm in playing up. You know, all you're going to do is get better. And when it's one and done, these experiences, when you're going against teams like that and you're at the one and done part of your state's tournament, it's only going to function to make you better. But let's head over on to, now this should be Thursday. All right, it's Thursday before I start running through them. We're going to go with Canfield. They're going to fall to Maury 4-3.
It was a walk-off, too. Heartbreaker for Canfield.
And then Princess Anne.
Wait, on Thursday? No, it wasn't.
Yeah, because that was how Canfield ended their Myrtle Beach trip for baseball, right? They walked.
Oh, that was baseball.
Off.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. That was a walk. I was thinking softball. Yeah, you're right. Because they had a walk-off pro Canfield on Wednesday and
Right.
against Canfield on Thursday. That sucks. Poor Gary.
Fitch gonna fall to Princess Anne, 15-0. South Range 12, Aidville 6.
Abville, I think.
Abville, thank you. Struthers is gonna fall to Crestview 8-5. Howland, best champion 5-2. Sebring and Cheney. This is a 1-0 score because of a forfeiture that occurred. So the score is not accurate, but when it gets reported to the OHSAA, this is what it's going to say. Sebring does get the win.
Well, is it still 7-0? I thought they got a run for every inning they were in a forfeit.
Oh,
I have no idea. I know that Cheney won the actual contest, and then
forfeited.
Cheney wins the actual contest, and then the game is forfeited due to some extracurricular stuff.
Okay,
and,
got it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that because it used to be a forfeit is a 7-0 victory. But I don't. I mean, that doesn't matter. I'm just pointing it out because
you get a run for every inning you play. Yeah,
I think that's it. And they might have changed it since I played, but I remember we had a forfeit and it was 7-0, and it like at that point every run counted because that was one of the tiebreakers. So I don't think it's going to come into factor here, but that's it. We'll have to talk about that offline because I missed that one.
Kirtland stings PV 19-0. Lisbon gonna fall to Heartland Christian 17-7. And Heartland Christian's another one of those teams that last week picked up a lot of wins.
Listen, my guy Mark Franken out there is on fire, and he has got these kids playing inspired baseball, and I love seeing it because you got guys like Drew Galt who are out there just hacking and having daddy swings, daddy hacks, and this Lion team is something to watch, guys. I am really impressed. Mark's got them playing great baseball, and they deserve every accolade they get right now.
It's funny that you mentioned Drew Galt because Drew Galt mentioned 3 times last week as player of the game on that list. So he really the boy had himself a week.
I mean, he was big dog of the year for basketball. I don't think there's anything stopping him from being big dog of the Valley and maybe big dog of the year for baseball too, because the dude gets votes.
And then Warren G. Harding falling to Newton Falls, 5-4. Cardinal Mooney going to bring Columbiana back down to earth, 18-3. As Columbiana has been on the other side of those scores most of the year. United and Niles is airtight. Niles coming out on top, 4-2. As we're going to head over to the softball side here. Canfield is going to lose to Bluefield 2-1, and then South Range and High Point 12-2 in this one. DJ, what was going on?
That was another one that we just could not get that 10th runner across. And I'm sitting there like, not again. It was close for a little bit. Jaylee Wilt started the game. That's if you were doing an organizational org chart or depth chart, she's the third. Third arm for South Range. She did a good job. And then it was like, they had enough. So like they were done messing around. They wanted to get back to the beach. The bats came alive. And I want to say it was 11-1 or something along those lines. And then they scored a run. The other team scored a run. And then it was like, oh man, you just give me one more. The umpire turned around at one point and said, "What's the score?" And I said 11-2. And he goes, turns around, puts his mask on. I knew it was on. I knew it was on. Like Donkey Kong, and it was on. Yeah,
Austintown Fitch going to fall or going to beat. I believe is it Elise or was it Elizabeth Seaton?
It's Elizabeth Seaton. Yeah.
Okay, Elizabeth Seaton. They're gonna. It doesn't matter. It's all Fitch in that one. 17-0.
This was
not gonna work here anymore.
This was Sydney Watts' perfect game. So.
Yeah, I mean a perfect game. And didn't she hit a grand slam in that too?
She was 2 for 2, I think, with 2 RBI.
Okay.
But she hit a grand slam down there in Myrtle Beach. I don't think it was this one though.
It wasn't that one. Okay. Ursuline going to fall to Vestal 9-0. Campbell Memorial 22-6 over Niles. Jefferson and Edgewood. This was one of the games I got to broadcast last week, and that one was a fun one. Sammy Speakman let the game do all of her talking. I mean, she gets it done in the box, gets it done in the circle. And this is an Edgewood that's coming off of really, really big wins, including beating Perry, who loses their first CBC conference game in 78 games is what Edgewood did last week. And then, so this was a tough one, but this is also, and we didn't get to it, and we're not going to go back, but Jefferson able to beat Poland in this same week.
15-1.
I was on the beach when the number came in, and there was a lot of eyebrow raising going on in North Myrtle Beach about that, because we were just like, what?
Yeah, like you said it in baseball, it was just one of those days where Jefferson's bats were hitting really well. Poland started Katie McDonald. It didn't matter. Jefferson was just all over her.
Sammy Speakman I got to see her up close and personal. She's a special talent, man. She is a special talent.
This Jefferson team has 3 girls that can consistently hit tanks out of the field, and you really got to be careful when you're pitching them. And Sammy's one of them. Matuz is another one.
Yeah,
that can knock the ball out of the park. And if you saw her, you wouldn't believe it. But
her last name's pronounced Matuz.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I went Mattis. That's my bad.
But I mean, they are legit. It was a fun game. It was the first time I got to see Jefferson this year. Definitely going to be the last, because they got it going on out there.
And you have a Jefferson hoodie, so it can't be the last. You got to wear that hoodie out there.
That's correct. That is correct. PV gonna beat Cardinal 20-1 in this in their game this week. Western Reserve 29-8 over Struthers. Carrollton 15-5 over West Branch. Jackson Milton 20-1 over JFK. Champion plays like a champion, 18-1 over Brookfield. Lowellville.
Both teams were undefeated in the conference, and Champion just put their foot down. I mean, Brookfield had beaten Boardman a couple of days before that, played competitive against Poland, and Champion just said, no, not today. 5 home runs in the game.
If you give me Gabby Gradishire and Sydney Watts from Fitch, and a couple other pitchers that we have right here on the network, I'll take this show on the road, and I'll do like White Man Can't Jump and just challenge every softball team around the country.
They're both sophomores too.
Like, we're not giving up no hits, and they can hit the ball themselves. Like, those girls are for real.
I would love to see like Team Ohio go down, south on like a tour. Like, we get to pick them, like Team YSN, and just see what we can do. Because I'm gonna tell you, not that we can bet, but I would bet on us every single game.
100%. 100%.
Like, nobody's touching that.
Columbiana 10, Springfield 0, and then Louisville 6-7 win over Union Lake, which is going to bring us to Saturday. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Friday. So we'll run through these Friday games. Baseball, Niles 11-4 win over Campbell Memorial. East Liverpool 12-5 over Beaver Local. Howland beating Columbiana. So Columbiana has a rough end of the week there, 10-3. And then Louisville taking a loss to North Canton Hoover. And I know that was a game that a lot of people had eyeballs on, because Louisville has been the real deal. Holyfield, even in the preseason rankings for a lot of PBR or Pro Bet, whatever the baseball, I think it's Prospect PBR. Baseball or something, but they had Louisville as like the number 3 team in Northeast Ohio.
Yeah, the Prep Baseball Report. That's what you're
Thank you.
Yeah.
Waterloo is going to go 18-2 over Garfield. Sebring is going to fall to Cheney in this one, 12-1. Lakeside, and this is one to keep an eye on. Lakeside 3-1 over Conneaut, and Lakeside gets the W. Conneaut's trying to kind of cut that deep. Conneaut has given up a lot of runs there, so I think a lot of people expected Lakeside to score more in this one, but Conneaut came out there and their defense showed up. I guess there's no such thing as moral victories, but you got to take them somewhere.
Good point.
Ursuline 10, Springfield 0, Jackson Milton 15-3 over Latonia. We got Hubbard 12 and Warren G. Harding 5. West Branch 10. Southeast 1. Garrettsville Garfield 9-2 over Western Reserve. And then Cardinal Mooney and Warren JFK 5-4. And that was another game I know that people had double circled on their schedules.
Dogfight.
Well, heading over to the softball, St. John and Badger. This was a game I got to cover as well. I was busy last week. It was fun, though. St. John and Badger. This one ends on a passed ball to the catcher. They steal home to walk off in the bottom of the 7th. It was back and forth from the time the game started. Like, if you look at the box score, it was 2 runs St. John in the first inning, 2 runs Badgers. 2 runs for Badger in the 3rd inning, 2 runs St. John, top of the 4th. Like, back and forth right up till the very end. Conneaut and Edgewood going way out on top there, 16-0. Boardman and Hubbard 9-4. 7-3 is Springfield and Campbell Memorial. 22-0 Crestview over Newton Falls. Beaver Local 11-4 over East Liverpool. Garrettsville Garfield is going to go 6-4 over Liberty, and then you have Field beating Louisville in this one 12-9. Jackson Milton 19-0 over Latonia. Youngstown East 17-7 over Niles. Salem is going to beat Lisbon 11-2. And then Cheney softball is going to win over Sebring 11-9. And Woodridge and Waterloo 6-3 as we head into Saturday. And this was a big day, at least for me, I know. Heading into this one. So Jackson Milton 19-0 over Campbell Memorial. And Geneva and Jefferson 14-5 is the final. And I'm not going to go too far into it, but what I will tell you is Geneva scored 10 runs in the top of the 7th inning. That game was 4-4 going into the 7th inning. And Geneva, their catcher Curtis Mayer goes up there, bases loaded, and hits a grand slam that the ball's probably still in the air. I think they probably had to register it somewhere. Like, absolutely nukes the ball out of the park. And the funniest part of that is the poor kid didn't even know he hit a home run. He's stopping at second. His third base coach is like, come on. In that game, it was really awesome. Lakeview 12, Champion 6. Edgewood 13-3 over Conneaut. Grand Valley 12, or PV 12, Grand Valley 2. Heartland Christian, again, 23-4. Heartland Christian on fire last week. Howland 12-3 over Crestview. Edison 32-0 over Southern. Struthers 4-0 over Mooney. Cardinals going to fall to Salem 5-3. St. John and Jefferson 14-4. That one did not go to the 7th inning. 25-6. Columbiana over Beaver Local. Garrettsville Garfield going to go 14-4 over top of Newton Falls. And Louisville beats Perry 12-2 as we go over to this softball side. How about that Southern Local Beaver Local game 6-7, the final in that one.
It was game 1 of a doubleheader too, so a good one to start, and then I think Southern got revenge the next game.
They did.
And those are rivals, correct? Like adjoining school districts type of deal.
Like, it kind of like you talked about before, county versus conference. That's kind of what it is. It was Southern and Beaver Local. Like Southern and Wellsville, yeah. Look out.
Okay. All right. Howland 17-7 over Crestview. Newton Falls 13-0 over Niles. Boardman 2-0 over West Branch. Southern Local gets a 7-2 victory over Beaver Local. And Cheney going to fall to Liberty 12-0. That was our week in scores. Just in the sake of time, we're not going to go through standings, but I do want to encourage everybody who's watching to head over to the standings page, because that's where you're going to find the most up-to-date information whether you're wondering who is where, what these games this week mean. But we're going to go to our first break, and then when we come back, we're going to unlock our second power rankings and our third starting 9. These ones are sure to get some people talking. We've got some big changes this week. I can't wait. Bring it on.
Shopping for a vehicle online should be easy and worry-free. Introducing Merge from Greenwood Chevrolet, a completely new way to buy a car that combines the convenience of shopping online with the personal touch and expertise that Greenwood is known for. With Merge, shopping is
News doesn't stop after the sun goes down. Sometimes you just have to hustle to get it. At 21 News, no matter how far it is, no matter what it takes to get there, we're working to bring you the best stories and the freshest content at 11 p.m. with the context and clarity that makes it worth staying up for, no matter what time it is. 21 News at 11 with me, Aaron Simonek, and Derek Steyer.
21 News at 11, news that's worth your time.
All right, we're back out of that quick set of breaks, and we're going to get ready to go to our power rankings is what we're going to be getting into first, and then we'll go into our starting 9 as our power rankings from last week, maybe didn't go over as well as some people didn't like, but I don't think a ranking I'll tell you what, I don't think a ranking has ever been universally agreed upon since rankings were invented. So this is obviously no different. This time we're going to start with the softball rankings. So Anthony can kind of walk us through really what's going on.
All right, so we'll start with number 1, Austin Town Fish. They were number 1 last week. I don't think anyone is surprised by this. Undefeated, only giving up 1 run in the season, and that was to Mentor, and they still won 11-1 in that game. 2 is Canfield, 3 is South Range. Then you have 4 is Champion McDonald, who was undefeated when these power rankings got submitted. Number 5, Columbiana, who beat McDonald on Saturday after these power rankings got submitted. We always tell people that, like, these are Fridays, so that Saturday game will get submitted into next week's power rankings.
Can I stop you right there? I know what's coming in about 45 seconds is 38 emails to DJ Yoakley.
I'm going to start calling Saturdays the day of slaughter, because every time we put this together, so we've done it for 2 weeks, and for 2 weeks in a row, Saturday has upended at least one of the rankings on here.
I love it. So let me just walk you through kind of how this works. Anthony's seen it before. It starts with DJ. I love what you do, but I got to ask you a question. Why is Columbiana behind McDonald if Columbiana beat McDonald? Right. And then it escalates from there. So like by the time 10 o'clock comes around, it's like, to whom it may concern, you suck. What do you It's so bad. They get so mad. Like, these are just opinion based. There's some algorithm that goes into it. We're working on it. It's not flawless. Trust me, we're just trying to do the best we can. Stop hating me.
Don't blame us, blame the abacus.
That's it.
Oh my God. 7, we have Hoban, who had a good week in Tennessee with Faith Porter in the circle. Real good team down there in Akron. 8 is Western Reserve, who might be one of the surprises at MVAC Scarlet tier. Poland drops a little bit as they suffer a couple losses this week. They're at 9. 10 is Lakeview. Then at 11, we have Louisville. 12 is Howland. 13, United. 14, we have Brookfield. 15 is Pymatuning Valley. 16, Springfield. 17, Jefferson. After a couple of big wins, they get into the power rankings for the first time. Edgewood right behind them at 18. 19 is Girard, and then 20 is LeBray.
I like it. I think this is a lot more solid. I don't know what we did different, but I think I really like that's a solid 20 teams, especially based on the last week.
Yeah, and Jefferson, I think Jefferson just figured out the formula for winning, and it's trust in Sammy. If you trust in Sammy, you can't lose.
I think I'm really interested to see how 2 and 3 progress this year. I think 1 is probably going to be pretty solid the entire year with Fitch. I'm really interested to see how Canfield and South Range, we might be seeing flippity flops the rest of the year, based on their schedule that week, based on games that week. And that's the tough thing about baseball and softball is, if you don't play that week and another team plays really well, you might get flippity floppity right over. And I know these don't mean anything, but people get really angry at that.
They
And some
do.
things we can't control, like if your team plays that week.
Hey, what have you done for me lately? That's what it's going to come down to with these power rankings. We can't hold your spot in line. There's no bathroom trips in the power rankings.
No fives.
Pitch
All right,
and
we're going to
Canfield
move
are
on
going to
over
play each other eventually. So
to these baseball rankings. And DJ, I'm going to let you walk through some of these because you've gotten to cover a lot more of these baseball teams than I have got to see.
Yeah, and Hoban was the team that everybody was scratching their head about last week. And, look where they are this week. Hoban, the number one spot overall in the Power 20, South Range, putting on a clinic down in Myrtle Beach, beating some really good teams, go undefeated on the trip, 5-0, I think. So then you look at Canfield, they're playing inspired baseball. They may have been the number 2 seed had they finished out with that victory instead of getting walked off. So that's a tough break for them. Then you got La Brea at 4, Lakeview at 5, West Branch at 6. We're in JFK that's been playing, I think, some of the best baseball of anywhere, of any team. They're just not getting some games in. Then you have Poland at 8, who had a tough trip down to Myrtle. Louisville at 9, which I think, I'm not a voter on this one, but I think that you're going to see them a lot higher at 9 moving forward this season. They've got some great teams. Probably play one of the best schedules on this entire family of YSN schools. Crestview's playing some great baseball right now, and they don't have their full roster. They're going to be getting some guys back that are going to be big-time players, and that could launch them into even further into the top 10. Fitch, I think, has every right to be in this and probably could be higher, but they're still a young team, still a very young team. Ursuline, a team to be reckoned with as well. They come in at 12. 13 is McDonald. They've been playing some great baseball. Jackson Milton at 14. United at 15 with one of the best pitchers in the entire area that has gone basically untouched to thus far in New Bern. Springfield Local at 16. Edgewood at 17. Garrettsville Garfield at 18. Then you've got Wellsville and Western Reserve. Wellsville, to me, with Jackson Brewer at the helm, one of the most underrated teams in this entire Power 20, and would not surprise me if at some point this season Wellsville cracked the top 10.
I think that Poland and South Range are going to be the biggest upsetters of the Power 20 in the next coming weeks. Just because, well, number one, they're playing each other. They're all in the same conference, and Poland is trying to, I guess, catch up to South Range. And I agree. People, as you called it early, you called it often. Here it is.
I'm sorry, my watch is a little off. It took about 9 minutes. Moser.
But here's the thing. For teams that I think are going to make the jump, I really think that Lakeview is going to cause a big headache in this baseball ranking. I think that they have a chance to crack those top 3, the big ones. I'm going to call them they're going to be one of the big graphics at sometimes. I think at some point they may crack 3.
Lakeview has a win against number 2, and they also have a win against number 6. So they're definitely already making moves.
So I think Lakeview's got a shot to go from a line graphic to a big square. So whether that's 1, 2, or 3, I don't know. And obviously I think Louisville and JFK, just based on their schedule and based on who they're playing, are also going to be big jumps next week.
I'm officially upset with Amo. He represents about 35 emails that are going into my inbox right now.
The one thing I want to talk about, though, is power rankings. So how about La Brea being in the top 4? I mean, Dylan Simpson just lighting the world on fire now on the mound. He's one of the best pitchers that we've seen so far this season. And La Brea, I don't think anyone would have thought coming into this year that they would be a top 5 team in the YSN coverage map, but here they are, just taking names every night they go out on the field.
Don't you love that?
Isn't Simpson a freshman? Is he a freshman?
Rose a freshman. Austin Rose.
Rose a freshman.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, listen, if we thought that was going to get people talking, it's time for the starting 9. As I said, guys, 82 performances made the sheet this week. 82. We had
And how
40,
many? How many can be in the starting 9?
18.
82. 82 and only 18 make it. So it tells you are the cream of the crop. Yeah, dig it.
And one of the things we talked about on last week's show, and Anthony brought up with softball, there's no room for error for pitchers. Like you can't just throw a no-hitter anymore. You got to throw a no-hitter. You have to go out there and hit the ball 14 miles, and you can't and you can't allow a walk or anything. So without
that would be a perfect game, Sam. That would be a perfect game.
Perfect game.
Without further ado, you know what? You talked about perfect game. We're going to have a perfect game. You asked for it. You're going to get it. We're going to let Anthony start this one off with our starting 9 and softball.
All right, so we'll lead off with Abby DeJoy from Brookfield. This is their game against Crestview, and she went 3 for 4, 5 RBI. She had her 5th home run of the season. She has 6 now on the year, 11-0 win over Crestview in that game. 6 home runs already through 10 games for Abby DeJoy. That is on pace for a lot to end the season if she continues that way. Sam Horn had a great day for Liberty when they played Camel. 4 for 6, 6 RBI, 13-11 win over Camel. Wow, Sarah Horn. Liberty, they hit 4 home runs in that game, by the way, for the Leopards. Mackenzie Gamble from Columbiana, she did this yesterday, a perfect game against then undefeated McDonald. 15 Ks, and then 1 for 3 at the plate, a grand slam, 4 RBI in that 8-0 win over the Blue Devils. Gabby Gratishar from Champion, 4 for 4, 2 home runs. These numbers are just like laughable. 6 RBI.
It's like playing a video game.
And then, like in the circle, 5 innings pitched, 9 Ks, no earned runs, 1 walk, and an 18-1 win over Brookfield. Brookfield was, trying to win a conference. They were both undefeated in the MVAC going into that game. Sydney Watts for Fitch. She doesn't need any introduction. It's a perfect game from her. 4 innings pitched, 11 Ks, 2 for 2, a double, 2 RBI, and 2 walks. Probably intentional with the way that she hits. And the respect that she deserves. Melina Serrano from Girard, who had a really good time in Tennessee, 5 for 5, a home run, 4 RBIs. When you play a 17-10 game, you're going to get a lot of at-bats. And she definitely did, 5 for 5 against St. Bede. Marcela Meyer from JFK went 2 for 2 with 3 RBI, 2 runs scored in their 13-1 win over Cleveland Central Catholic. Mia Parker for Liberty, we thought 5 for 5 was good. I'll just go 6 for 6 with 4 RBI and a 19-15 win over Badger. And then last but not least, this one came from yesterday as well. Alyssa Masucci, 4 for 4, 5 RBI, and 3 runs scored in their 17-7 win over Crestview on yesterday.
Wow.
It's a lot of big numbers.
Wow.
So all of these, and I'm not downplaying anybody's performance because these are all amazing. These are all amazing. First of all, the amount of work you had to do to get from the 40 plus other performances to be named on this 9 is nothing short of amazing. I've got to tell you, Mackenzie Gamble from Columbiana, a perfect game against an undefeated team, and then hitting the old Grand Salumski. Come on.
Didn't Brubaker have a big game too?
Brubaker threw a no-hitter in Crestview's week as well. There were a lot of no-hitters this week. Hubbard had 2 in a row.
Which
Haley
is
Taylor
surprising.
And Resnack went back-to-back.
So typically when the weather warms up, the no-hitters go down, historically speaking, right? And it's science. But it's like to see that many no-hitters in a week that it was 70s, 80 degrees, like that tells you how good the pitching is in our area. Again.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be honest with you. I was counting and I stopped at 12 and I know there was a couple more. So I think we had like 13 or more no-hitters. It was ridiculous.
I mean, Gabby Gratishar threw a no-hitter and then won up to her performance against Brookfield. We had to put that one on. She had a no-hitter earlier in the week. So it's just like she has 3 on the year now, and she does this against Brookfield. It's just like
and just
the
goes
talent is
4 for 4 with 2 dingers and 6 RBIs. Like, what's a big deal? I'm just over here throwing no hitters.
Yeah, not only am I not going to let you score, I'm going to score at will.
Yeah, like Gabby Gradishar won, everybody else 0. Like that's how it is.
Champion
All right,
hit
that's
9
gonna be
home
our
runs in 2
softball.
games against Brookfield.
That's going to be our softball starting 9, and we're going to move on over to our baseball starting 9, and a lot of new names, and what I'm really happy about, new schools. Every week we've had new schools step up with big time efforts, and this one I'm going to the baseball guy, DJ. Well, I got him. I'm letting him take the baseball stuff.
I haven't even read these yet. Thanks, Sam. I'm blind. Tom Miller from St. John, 4 for 4, 5 RBIs, 3 runs scored in a 22-4 victory over Conneaut. He's in the 1 spot. All right. Chris Rosar, is that how we're pronouncing this?
That's how I would have said it.
From Niles. I apologize if I butchered your name, Chris. 4 for 4, 2 RBIs, 2 runs scored in the 11-4 win over Camel. Caleb Satterfield, the Boardman prospect, he can play baseball, but man, can that kid swim. 2 for 2 with a walk, a home run, an RBI, and a 3-2 victory over FPCA, whatever that is.
It is a lot of words, and they're all long.
That's all that matters is Satterfield came out on top, man, in that 3 spot. Ben Wilcox, Hubbard, a stud, 2 for 2, including a 2-run dinger in a 12-5 win over Warren Harding this week. Matt Wagner in the 5 spot from Lakeside, 3 for 3 with 3 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, and a 23-0 win over Pymatuning Valley. Mark Manning from Ursuline, 3 for 3, 4 RBIs, 3 runs scored in a 19-0 win over Youngstown East. He's in the 6th slot, followed by Ryan Burns of Akron Hoban, 3 for 4, 2 RBIs, a run scored, 11-2 win over Ellett. Then we have got Lucas Henry of Grand Valley, 4 for 5, 3 RBIs, 2 runs scored, and a 14-2 win over Crestwood. And finally, rounding out the bunch, it's Tyler Rarick of Heartland Christian, 3 for 3, 3 RBIs, 4 runs scored, 23-4 win over Leetonia. That is your starting 9 for this week. And man, that is a lot of dingers, a lot of stolen bases, and a lot of runs scored, boys.
Last week we talked about the difference between softball and baseball, and with softball it was almost all pitching, and with baseball it was hitting, and it kind of carried over, but not as much this week. What you have to do to make this list in baseball, I mean, you've got first of all, you can't miss too many at bats. Like, nobody here went any less than what would that be, 750 at the plate. I think we had one guy go 4 for 5, and 1 3 for 4. And when you get out there, you have to get these runs scored. The amount of runs scored this week in the 40 plus performances that were nominated was incredible.
Steve Ward chiming in and says, thank you, YSN, for continual coverage of all area athletes. It was amazing. The families and fans could watch back home or watching at the resort, watching other teams in Myrtle. Steve, thank you so much for your support. We appreciate you kind of taking Ty under your wing and supporting YSN. One thing that we talked about down there, and I just want to take a minute real quick and just let people know how great it is to have teams like Austintown Fitch and South Range and Ursuline and Canfield, Poland. I mean, everybody down there, right? Last year, when there was conversation about Austintown Fitch and YSN, kind of a little bit of a breaking up, or so to speak, the Fitch softball girls got YSN shirts and wore them to school on the day of the school board meeting in support of our network. And I don't think that happens just by accident. And we are so blessed. And again, I say blessed because that's what I feel we are, to be able to do this. This is, for a lot of you guys, this is not your day job, right? This is something you do for fun, that you love. For Anthony, for myself, it is our job. It is our full-time job. It is what we love to do. We've been doing for the last 6 years. It is our honor, our privilege, and our just, we're so grateful to be able to do that. And if it wasn't for people in small businesses and sponsors to be able to allow us to go down to Myrtle Beach and do what we love to do, this stuff wouldn't happen. This is something we love. It's our passion. It's not just a project. It's not something that's just going to go away in a couple of years. This is my lifelong dream. that I'm living out every day that I get to wake up and do this. And Sam, I want to give credit to you and Anthony. You guys started this, and Steve, with the Diamond Roundup, or what are we calling this?
Diamond Roundup, baby.
I got it.
Yeah.
It's something like baseball and softball have been very special to me my entire life. I'm a baseball player. It is awesome to see this thing succeeding. It's awesome to see teams. It's awesome to see coaches like Steve Ward chiming in, paying attention to this, because it is special. Whether people pay attention to this or not, or give it any merit, that's up to them. But to be able to take this and run with it and say, hey, girls, did you see we're the number 1 ranked team on YSN and out of 80 teams? And we're getting, I mean, Sam, you're starting to experience it. We're getting calls saying, hey, how do we get on YSN? I got one. I take that back. I got 3, and I've got 3 more emails from teams that are down south that want what we have. Our student athletes, our coaches, and our communities are so fortunate to have this. And I'm not saying it because of what we do. I'm saying it because we didn't have this growing up. This is something that will help them get to the next level if they want to go. This is something that will help them get traction, something they can share 20 years from now with their kids and their families and say, hey, look what I did. Look what I did whenever I was, a senior in high school. Stuff that I wish we had, but it wasn't happening. So we had to make it happen. And if it wasn't for these communities, these fans, these coaches, and most of all these student athletes believing in what we're doing for the right reason, none of this, and I mean absolutely none of this, would be possible. So I give all the kudos and the credit right back to guys like Steve Ward, guys like Don Farron, guys like Jeff DeRose. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on. Coach Kieran, or Coach Kernan rather, and then you go to the other side, baseball. It's Jim Hannick and so on and so forth. Gary Niddle, who has bent over backwards for us and just joined our team on the broadcast side. I know I've gone on and rambled a little bit, but man, going down to Myrtle Beach and experiencing that and having people say, no, I got this. You do so much for us. It tugs on your heartstrings a little bit, and something I hope that all of us can experience at one time or another down south, whether it be Pigeon Forge or Florida or Myrtle Beach. So fortunate to have some great teams to follow, but even more fortunate to have great people to be down there with. So thank you very much.
Yeah, the reciprocal appreciation is just amazing. I think that in most cases, I think that the student athletes, the families, the schools in general, they just appreciate us taking the time to do these sort of things. But they gotta know that how much we appreciate us being able to do this. This is something you talked about. You either love it or you don't, and if you don't love it, it shows immediately, and you usually don't stick around too long because it ain't always fun. But you know what I mean. It's a blessing that we've all kind of found, and I know myself as well, just super happy to be part of this as we continue.
And you guys have busted. I'm going to tell to everybody who doesn't know, and Anthony earmuffs, because I know you don't like swearing. You guys busted your ass for the last 3 weeks on all of this. You guys have taken charge. I also want to give a special shout out to Steve, also Chris Sigler, who has been working a full-time job, 12-hour days, going through some personal stuff with his family. Please put them in your thoughts and prayers, and still being able to bust his tail to be able to really report all this stuff. And the team that we have now, guys, I am strongly feeling this is the best team we've ever put together. Ty Bartell busting his tail. Ty Bartell busting his tail, say that 10 times fast, down in Myrtle Beach. Like that, most people are going to look at that and say it was a vacation. And while on paper, yeah, it was, there was no vacationing. I mean, there was a lot of work going on. Anthony saw the back end. I was putting stories in. You can take the kid. I get more work done when you take me out of here because you can't communicate with me. So good luck trying to beat us when I'm on the road.
So, but you know what? Again, so that's going to do it for this week. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank DJ Yoakley for coming on to the show this week. I was super pumped to get him back from Myrtle Beach because, he's awesome with football. He's great with basketball, but this guy's a baseball guy, and I couldn't wait to get the baseball guy on the show.
Love it, man. It was again. This is my time of year. I can't wait till summer. We're gonna keep this going through summer. Like we got to, because those kids deserve just as much, and the talent level rises. I think when you talk about summer ball and Scene Park.
But yeah, I think that's going to do it. Anthony, I'm going to have you hit us on the way out of here. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks so much. It's the Diamond Roundup. We'll see you soon.
Ysn thanks you for watching this presentation of